The W Series will join the support bill for Formula 1 at 8 weekends this year. The series, which features exclusively female drivers, aims to change the face of motorsport, a mission clearly obvious in its Rethink Racing hashtag. Motorsport is a male-dominated industry, something clearly obvious when looking around the paddock, but while it has been some time since a female driver competed in Formula 1, it is not unheard of. They may be few and far between, but let's look at those drivers who have battled through to reach Formula 1. Maria Teresa de Filippis. The first of only 2 women to ever compete in a Grand Prix, Maria Teresa de Filippis entered 5 races and lined up on the grid to start on 3 occasions. The Italian had made a name for herself in sports cars and even finished second in the Italian Sports Car Championship in 1954. De Filippis thus attracted considerable attention and also came into the sights of Formula 1 teams. In 1958, De Filippis was given the opportunity to enter the Monaco Grand Prix in a privateer Maserati 250F. The Italian manufacturer had withdrawn from F1 at the end of 1957, having just powered Juan Manuel Fangio to championship success, but the cars remained in use by privately run teams. Sadly, she was not successful in setting a fast enough time to qualify for the Grand Prix, a feat only achieved by half of the 31 entrants. Future F1 Supremo Bernie Ecclestone also failed to qualify in this race for what would have been his F1 debut. However, De Filippis tried again at the Belgium Grand Prix, and this time was successful in making the grid. She finished 10th of the 10 drivers that finished the race, but the result was not important. De Filippis had raced in Formula 1, a woman had raced in Formula 1, and that was the story. De Filippis would successfully qualify for 2 further races in 1958, the Portuguese and Italian Grand Prix, but retired from both with engine troubles. In 1959, after attempting to qualify once again for the Monaco Grand Prix, she turned her back on motorsport, upset by the deaths of several rival drivers. In 1979, De Filippis returned to motorsport, joining the International Club of former F1 Grand Prix drivers, taking up the role of vice president in 1997. In 2016, aged 89, the Italian trailblazer sadly passed away. Leila Lombardi. The second and to date final female driver to compete in a Formula 1 Grand Prix, Leila Lombardi holds the accolade of being the only woman to score a point in the championship. After a promising junior career which saw Lombardi finish second in the 1968 Italian F3 Championship, win 4 of 10 races in the 1970 Italian Formula 850 Series, and claim the 1971 Formula Ford Mexico Championship title, Lombardi first attempted to qualify for an F1 Grand Prix at the British round of the championship at Brands Hatch in 1974. Driving an outdated Brabham BT42, Lombardi failed to qualify, but 1975 would be a different story. At South Africa, driving a March 741, Lombardi successfully qualified and lined up on the grid. She would race only 23 laps, the car letting her down, but what happened next no one expected. The 1975 Spanish Grand Prix is arguably the most significant race ever to have been contested in Formula 1. After controversy surrounding the barriers that lined the circuit and whether they had been properly bolted together or not, Lombardi lined up 24th of 26 drivers. However, the race was halted on lap 29 of the 75 after an accident involving Rolf Stommelon resulted in the deaths of 4 people, 1 fireman, 1 spectator and 2 photographers. At the time the race was stopped, Lombardi had climbed to 6th. With only 8 drivers remaining in the race, the Grand Prix was not restarted and half points were awarded, meaning Lombardi received half a point. To date, she remains the only female driver to score a point in Formula 1. Lombardi entered another 10 races in 1975, failing to qualify only for the Monaco Grand Prix and achieving a 7th place finish in the German Grand Prix. In 1976, it would be her last year in Formula 1, entering 4 races, 1 in a March 761 and 3 in a Brabham BT44B, qualifying twice. After ending her Formula 1 career, Lombardi competed in a variety of championships, making appearances in German Touring Car Championship DTM, NASCAR and the Le Mans 24 Hour, finishing second in her class in 1976. Having retired from driving, Lombardi founded Lombardi Autosport in 1989, but sadly died of cancer just a few years later in 1992, aged 80. While Maria di Teresa Philippe and Leila Lombardi are the only women to have competed a Grand Prix, they are not the only women to have attempted to qualify for a race. 3 other women are listed with official entries to their names. In 1976, Davina Galicia entered the British Grand Prix for Shell Sport Whiting in a Surtees. She followed this up with entries in the first 2 races of 1978 in a Hesketh, but again failed to qualify. Desiree Wilson, a 2-time South African Formula V champion, won the British Formula 1 Championship race at Brands Hatch in 1980 and was rewarded with a drive in a Brands Hatch Racing Williams FW07 at the British Grand Prix of that year. Her only appearance at a Formula 1 World Championship event, Wilson was one of 3 drivers not to qualify for the race. The other 2, Jan Lammers and Keke Rosberg. Finally, and most recently, there's Giovanna Ahmati. The Italian made 3 qualifying attempts for Brabham at the start of the 1992 season. With limited experience, despite spending the majority of the last 4 years attempting to qualify in Formula 3000, Ahmati lacked pace and was replaced by Damon Hill before her career had the chance to really take off. Suzy Wolfe is the most recent female driver to drive an official F1 session, taking to the track for FP1 in the 2014 British Grand Prix in a Williams. Tatiana Calderon has also been an official test driver for the past 4 years, first taking the role at Alfa Romeo in 2017, but she is yet to take part in an official session. Simona Di Silvestro was a Sauber-affiliated driver in 2014. Carmen Giorda, a Lotus and Renault development driver between 2015 and 16, and Maria Di Velotta, a test driver for Marussia in 2012. On her first time in the car, Di Velotta was involved in a crash with a stationary truck while carrying out a straight line test. She lost her right eye in the crash and tragically died in October 2013, with a forensic doctor confirming her death was the result of neurological injuries suffered in her crash. As we said at the start, the W Series will feature on the support bill at 8 Grand Prix this year. The series first raced in 2019, but competed online last year as the global pandemic forced its second season to be postponed. Competed in F3 cars, the W Series raced alongside DTM in its maiden year, with Jamie Chadwick taking the title. Chadwick became a Williams development driver at the end of 2019, but is yet to get her chance in an official practice session. Vice-champion Bajtska Visser has since teamed up with Sofia Flores and Tatiana Calderon to create an all-female team for the World Endurance Championship in the LMP2 category this year. The trio continue to build on a successful start to their partnership with the Richard Mille racing team.